On today's episode of Paint Shop, fresh paint will give this OBS Chevy a new lease on life. This truck has seen better days. Has your typical early 90s Chevy faded paint job, delaminating clear on the hood, roof, and clear coat was peeling on the sides. So pretty much had to be stripped off. We sanded everything down with a 220 to get the clear coat off the top. We didn't strip it all the way down to the metal, so we could just shoot a fresh 3 coats of primer over top of everything, sand it down, smooth it out, so it could be ready for fresh paint on top. We then sanded the primer and the remaining paint down with a 320 grit sandpaper on a DA. This back here on the Chevrolet, the customer did not want to take it off, and it's a pain to get off anyway. So what we did, we just sanded it, taped over it, and we're going to shoot clear over it so it can look like a brand new sticker. Here we have the truck all taped up. It's a quick respray. It's not a $10,000 paint job, so we didn't do a full disassembly. This is not recommended on the color change, but we're going back the same color, so it's not really too much of a worry. For our masking materials, we use a 3M gold tape, and we actually use a 3M gold paper as well. As you can see, we don't have a paint booth, so the first thing that I like to do when I'm getting ready to paint is I like to wet the floor down nice and good, kill some of the dust from dragging the hose around. The cleaning materials I use for the truck, I use actually just Windex in a spray bottle. Wipe that down with a microfiber, and then after that's dry, I use a smart wax and grease remover, a spray bottle. Wipe that down with a cloth free towel. I just get everything good and wet with the Windex, spray everything all over, then follow behind it with my microfiber. Wipe all that down. I use the Windex first to try to kill the dust, because dust is pretty much water-based, so you get all the dust down first with the Windex, and then I go over top of it, get all the remaining contaminants off with the wax and grease remover. As you can see here, I'm spraying that with the spray bottle. That dries pretty quick. I'm wiping that down with just a clean cloth towel. After I get everything cleaned off, what I do is come behind it with a tack cloth. I wipe everything off with the tack cloth to get all of the lint and dust particles off, so I can get as clean as a paint job as possible, because trash will ruin your paint job. It's inevitable. You will get some trash, and no matter how good your paint booth is or paint room, you're going to get something, but you still try to keep that down to a minimum. The paint materials I'm going to be using on this vehicle today is a Chroma base coat from Chromax and a Nason Select Clear. It's a 2-to-1 clear. I use the Nason full base reducer in the paint and the clear coat. After I get everything all cleaned off and tacked off, I like to give it another walk around just to make sure I haven't missed anything or see anything imperfections that I could like to clean up before I start spraying the sealer. Everything looks good, so I'm going to start loading my gun up and be spraying soon. The sealer I'm spraying also is a Nason product. I actually added a red toner to it to get closer to the color, so when I spray the red, I don't have to use as much material to cover it. Hopefully in 2 coats. I actually did cover this in 2 coats. Just makes life a lot easier when you're painting. You don't have to put way too much paint on just to get covered, which you could have solved with a little sealer under for a ground coat. I like to paint my hood in 3 angles. I start at one side, go around to the front, just get the edge. Makes it a lot easier to try to go all the way down, stretching your body. Then I go over to the other side, and as you can see, I do panel paint. I go over each jam for each panel and start that panel from the jam that I sprayed over and repeat that throughout the whole vehicle. I also like to paint the top last, especially on these trucks, because I have to stand on something to get it because I'm not a tall person. And I actually don't even have recording of me painting the top because it's a pain to hold the phone and paint at the same time. I actually got cramped up a few times while doing this, but had to have the footage, so there you go. And on goes the first coat of red. You can actually see how easy the red covers over this tinted sealer that I sprayed down. This is a factory GM red color. I believe the name is Victory Red. I spray the paint on the same way I sprayed the sealer in the same exact pattern. The paint gun I'm using is a Sada 5000 RP. I'm spraying it at about 30 PSI. My pattern that I use, the gun is wide open, always full fluid, full fan. And my spray pattern, I'm about, it's hard for me to say. I know I'd say I'm around 5 to 6 inches away, and I'd say I have about an 75 to 80% overlap. And the cup system I have on this gun is actually the disposable Sada plastic cup. I actually like them. I know a lot of people talk bad about them. It's my first time using them this year, and I haven't had any issues. I mean, once you get used to them, make sure the vent cap is pressed tightly when you're not using it, and make sure you have it screwed on. You normally don't have any issues out of it. This is basically a trick that I use to make sure that I have everything all covered. So once I get as many coats of paint on that I think that I need to cover, what I like to do is cut the lights off, give me a bright LED light, hold it eye level, check for any light spots. It's easier to see in the dark with the light. Actually can see a few of them here as I'm looking at the video, and it's best to spot them now than to shoot clear on it, then have to repaint the truck because you have light spots all over it. So this is actually a good way to save you some time in the long run. Now I've actually went back, touched up all the light spots that I've seen in the dark with the light. Going here, untaping this Chevrolet sticker that I told you about, giving it one last check over before I load the clear up in the gun and shoot the clear on. Actually started recording a little late here. What I do with the clear coat, I like to start from the tailgate on the trucks first, or if I'm painting the car, I like to start from the trunk, work my way around one side, and then get back to the other side. To me, that works best because if it's a dry spot, it's a smaller area in the trunk than starting on the hood and having the dry spot right on the fender. You shoot to not have any dry spots anyway, but if you work quick enough and have the right reducers and hardeners in your clear, you don't really have that problem. The clear gun that I'm using is my trusty Iwata PH400. I've had this gun for years. People try to tell me to get away from it and get something new, but something I'm used to, and I just continue to use it. I actually have the PPS cups, 2.0 cups on this one, the big cup, so I can stretch as long without changing cups when I'm doing all overs as I can. When I'm doing the clear on the hood, I like to start from the inside, work my way out, then flip over, go to the other side, and try to eliminate the dry spots on the hood, because that's the main point that you're picking up with your eyes. Remember, again, I like to hit my hood at 3 angles. So I hit one side, now I'm coming around, hitting the front edge again with the clear coat. Same way I did with the paint. Then I'm going on to the other side. This is one of the things that I hate about not disassembling the vehicles when I'm painting them is the mirrors. The mirrors will get you if you do not know what you're doing. When I first started painting, ran my gun into the mirror, then you gotta run right by the mirror. Seen multiple people do it. That's why it's best to, if you're not painting it, to take it off. But sometimes when you're trying to get something done quick and you're not charging a whole lot, you have to tape it up. Alright guys, so after 2 coats of paint and 2 coats of clear, here's your finished product. Looked like it came out pretty good, didn't have a whole lot of trash in it, has a few nibs here and there, but nothing too bad. You can always go back with a piece of sandpaper and a buffer and get all that stuff out. I know you hear 2 coats of clear. It sounds crazy, especially with all the guys nowadays saying they're putting 5 and 6 coats of clear on it. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to do something like that on something that's going to be driven and you want a factory type paint job with a factory orange peel. Doesn't have a lot of peel in this. Look like it's slicked out pretty good, and I think the customer will be happy with this job. And when you get around the back, you actually see how that back sticker came out really nice with the fresh clear over top of it. If you're still here at the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode.